guys, this is Brandon.
This is Trajan.
And this is Not Enough Podcast. Are we still sticking with that name, or
Yeah.
Jason, you got any suggestions for us?
Professor Megorium's Wonder Emporium was my first suggestion.
That is a great name. Oh my gosh. It's even...
That was so random. I wasn't expecting that.
That's the last thing I would have expected. All right, so obviously we have a guest on with us today. His name is Jason Klamm.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Of Comedy on Vinyl. And correct me if I'm wrong, you have a project coming up called Looking Forward?
I do. It's called Looking Forward 2016. It's a sequel to my first comedy feature.
Okay. All right. Cool. So obviously Jason here is a comedian, so we're gonna try and
It's gonna be a pretty fun podcast. When I try to keep up with them.
Yeah, we'll try. We're not experienced comedians.
Way to set me up to fail. Thanks.
Oh.
All right, we're gonna get on our first segment, which is Pop Face Off. And today we're gonna face off between which one is better, Bob's Burger or Archer.
That's right. Yeah.
Which one you want to talk about first?
Well, I mean, we can just. Jason, you want to go ahead and start with Bob's Burgers?
Sure. Bob's Burgers is one of my favorite shows of all time. And I think it's mostly because it's a family show that is emotional and genuine without being schmaltzy, saccharine, and garbage.
I agree.
And all the characterizations are just super, super fun. And you kind of wish they were your friends, which is rare.
Yeah. Same here, man. Yeah. I definitely think Bob's Burgers is it's the perfect mix between I don't know, kind of like a Family Guy style of humor where it's they can go for both really intelligent jokes and, basically what you would call lowbrow jokes. And then they can still, but the added factor is they can still bring it home with an emotional punch. And I don't know, to me it still feels like you could still, feel things with that show.
It's nice, yeah. They're all character based.
Yeah.
But which one do you think he does better? H. John Benjamin. Which one do you think he does better? Archer or Bob's Burger? Which one do you think is better?
Well, but come on, man. That's a cheat question, man.
I'm just saying. I feel like he does Archer way better. It's just the way he does his it's so much different way he does it.
Yeah, but it's different characters. So
it's iconic things that he does on Archer that's great.
He does iconic things on Bob's Burgers.
Come on. Danger
He does. And no matter what he does, though, it always sounds like this. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
it's funny.
He just plays himself
Okay, that's kind of true. So which one of the shows, who has the best supporting characters?
Okay, so let's see. We got Tina, Linda, Jean, and Louise.
Mm-hmm.
Louise is my favorite character. So just over both of these shows, she's great. I mean, because she's a little isn't she 7 or something?
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah.
Yeah, she's a little 7-year-old who can again, referencing Family Guy, where Stewie's a toddler, but he acts like an adult. So she does that, where she legitimately knows things that no kid should ever know. But then she can also, be an actual kid. It's sometimes I love how sometimes they'll remind you she's a kid. So she for example, her stuffed animal. I forgot what it's called.
Oh, Mr. Kuchikopi?
Yeah. So she has a stuffed animal called Mr. Kuchikopi, and she gets really mad. I don't want to give away a whole thing, but yeah, there's a whole thing.
Isn't that kind of like Stewie and Rupert?
Okay, I guess it is similar.
Oh yeah, I guess so. Forgot about it.
Is Seth MacFarlane co-write on this show?
No,
I don't think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It just sounds like something you would do.
Wow. Ooh, there's a lot of similarities between Bob's Burgers and Family Guy.
Think about it. It's a whole family, the same amount of characters. Is it the same amount of characters?
Man.
No, it's not the same amount of characters, though. Well, yeah, it is.
I will say my favorite Bob's Burgers character is Teddy. He's my absolute favorite.
Oh, Teddy is pretty great. Oh, man. I like the way that they've, what they've done with his character as far as, They actually let him develop. Like, he isn't the same guy he was at the beginning of the show, honestly.
Right, yeah, we find out a little bit more about him being a divorcee and how he's kind of desperate to get back together with her, and it's a little sad, but also really charming.
Yeah.
But how about on Archer?
Okay.
Well, how Archer supporting cast is like really good.
Give me an example.
Pam.
Okay.
Pam is hilarious.
Pam is great.
Pam and Cheryl is like hilarious. Like,
Wait, what's her name?
yeah, like
Judy Greer, right?
Yeah.
I love Judy Greer.
And then Mallory Archer.
Oh,
come
yeah.
on, like
That is a pretty amazing role, though.
like come on, like this show is basically like a cartoon version of like Arrested Development and like a 007 movies. I swear, it's so good.
Yeah,
like,
it is. It is.
And like Chris Farnell, how you say his name?
Chris Farrell.
His roles, like him and Jerry and like Rick and Morty,
Right,
and
that's
in
right.
this show,
Yeah.
it's just like the way he comes off is just like he's always like a pushover, but like in this show he's like a pushover, but like
He's also
he
crazy.
sometimes gets over on Archer, which makes his character even better.
All right.
Show is really good.
What's great about him is like he's kind of similar to H. John Benjamin in that he doesn't do a lot of character work in terms of the voice.
Yeah.
But like I met him in person once, and he sounds exactly like that. It's always the same.
I really think it's interesting when actors play, like, they don't change their voices
his
at all.
own voice.
Yeah, I think,
Like, who else does that? Like Will Arnett.
it's
does
always
that.
sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah, also, yeah.
Will Arnett
Yeah.
uses his deep voice.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I'm Will Arnett.
Oh my god. You're so
Yeah, he doesn't have to do anything.
He doesn't.
At all. I'm sorry. but I
MC Light just murdered Danny Bonaducci. Thanks, phone.
I just had this thing where I just don't like Will Arnett for some reason. I don't know why. It's just been like that since I was
He
like
has a whole thing about that. I don't understand it.
I swear Will Arnett just does Will Arnett like in everything he does.
Okay, all right, man. But yeah, sorry. To get back to the topic, So, I mean, Bob's Burgers as far as characters versus Archer as far as characters. I mean,
They were ISIS before ISIS.
oh my god, I forgot about
Come
that.
on. They were ISIS before ISIS.
And they even made,
And they
a joke about
ISIS.
They really made a joke
They made
about
a whole
it.
season joke about ISIS, how they had to change their name and organization because they thought there was a whole nother like terrorist group.
Yeah, that was something else.
That show was like so good. Like, he always breaks the fourth wall. They always know when they're alcoholics. Like everything. Like
Okay, Jason. All right. Well, okay, so defend Bob's Burgers here because I feel like I'm leaning towards Archer right now, and like I don't want to side with.
I don't know, man. I do like them both. I've seen less Archer, to be honest, but I mean, it's going to come down to personal taste because I really I'm leaning towards more sincere stuff. Like I'm a huge fan of Parks and Rec.
Yeah,
I'm a huge
same.
fan of Community,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with Archer. But it's easier for me to watch more of something that's a little more heartfelt. And again, nothing wrong with Archer, but for me personally, I'm going to go ahead and say just because of it's so sincere and it's sweet.
Okay. All right, Trajan. You change your position at all?
nah.
Still with Archer. Okay.
I just really love Archer. I just never got into Bob's Burger. I feel like I will later on, but I just never really got into depth with Bob's Burger. But like Archer, I watched the whole series like a few months ago, and I just fell in love with the show. Like it's just a really great show, and like the storyline is always like there, and like the stuff they do each season is crazy. Like last season, they did a whole season inside of Archer's head in a
Yeah,
coma.
that was
That's
pretty great.
just genius.
Yeah, that was pretty genius.
That's amazing.
Well, now I have to choose between this two, and like,
Yep.
man. All right. Well, okay. Archer has great, like long form like storytelling. I think because they do every season. Well, not every season. Most seasons they've done like a story throughout the entire season, which I really enjoy. But Bob's Burgers is one of those shows where you can just like literally after this interview, I'm probably gonna go like watch it. Just like I just put it on and just
Yep.
So yeah, I'm gonna say Bob's Burgers. That's
Good.
the one.
That means I don't have to resort to blackmail to win you over because I'm going to be interviewing Lauren Bouchard in a couple weeks, and I wouldn't, I could have just said, "Listen, I'm gonna tell him what you said."
Oh no! Oh my gosh! Well, I'm glad you didn't have to pull that out on me.
Well, I guess
I'm kidding. That's just my real shitty sideways brag of saying that I'm going to interview Lauren Bouchard. That's really all that was.
Well, I'll definitely be listening to that.
I guess Bob's Burgers won today's pop face-off.
Yep. Bob Burgers for the win. All right, so Jason, we're gonna go into our segment, which we call a cultural update, and usually we have like a little story like from either of us. But because we have a guest on here, obviously we have some questions for you that I'm sure our audience would like to know.
Sounds good.
All right, so
you're from England, and do you find American or British pop culture more interesting?
It's a solid mix. I mean, since I lived in England very briefly, but I do remain a dual citizen. I've always been obsessed with English humor, and it's influenced my own writing probably more than American stuff. But within the last 5-6 years, playing catch up on some stuff and just how good comedy on TV has gotten, like it's catching up. It will never have had the same impact that English comedy's had on me, though.
right.
How long did you live in Germany?
About 4 or 5 years.
Did they have any kind of different pop culture there that was different?
Not for us, because we were on a base. So unfortunately, we just got everything Americans got, but a year later.
Oh wow, man, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh wait,
because of that, I didn't see a lot of really classic movies until like years later.
Dang.
I mean, I think we were actually in the same situation because we weren't alive during that time. So like
Sure.
But yeah. Okay, so actually, in reference to that, so have you ever heard of the show Faulty Towers?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I watched that I started watching it last year, and I didn't know anything about it before then. But I gotta say that might be my favorite comedy show so far.
That's of all time.
I mean, it's really funny.
It's really out there.
No, but correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, isn't it? Isn't kind of a satire? I didn't take it at face value.
Sure. Yeah. No. It absolutely is. It's you should. I would read anything that John Cleese has ever written about having worked on that show, because it was really important to him, not just to separate himself from what he'd done on Monty Python, but he wanted to do something new. But it was also supposed to be a classic farce. But there's obviously satirical elements of existing sitcoms and stuff on there. So it's because it takes kind of a I don't know, just a boring old plot about a couple white people in a hotel in England and really turns it on its head.
It's true, yeah. I've shown him a couple episodes of it, but I probably didn't show him the right episodes, so I'm just going to let him watch it on his own.
I have 2 episodes of that show on vinyl, actually. They released episodes of that show as audio-only vinyl.
Is it? Okay, so in reference to your comedy on vinyl, I always struggle to really get into comedy that is just audio as opposed to audio and video. Obviously I listen to podcasts and I enjoy the comedy of podcasts, but for some reason I just haven't made the connection to a comedy album.
Yeah. It's a matter of patience, and I will tell you, there's some old comedy albums that I don't always have the patience for, and I kind of had to learn to have it, because it's I'm going to interview the guy who made this damn thing. I should learn. And if you take the time, a lot of old comedy albums are more accessible.
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
Some suck though. Okay. I tried to listen to a comedy album a day this year, and I so far have failed because most of them are bad. Come on.
That really sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you learn. Yeah. I mean, I make comedy albums myself, and it's you learn the lessons of oh, this is super racist. I don't need to ever listen to this guy's crap anymore. Or this is, and that's most of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, I was wondering, what is your biggest regret as far as your career so far? And do you have any suggestions for, how someone could avoid this maybe?
Boy, I don't know. I guess I try not to have too many.
Right.
I just keep going. But if there is one, it's one that I really couldn't prevent myself. And that's I directed one of the world's first viral videos. But this was 16 years ago now. I wish I had rode the wave of that better, but there was no way, because nobody knew what that was at the time. The word viral wasn't a thing yet.
Right.
So I guess I would say I wish I had found a way to ride that wave a little better, because it might have led to something. Who knows?
Yeah, that's a really good point, man. I think where we are now, as far as the internet, the connection between the internet and any kind of career as far as entertainment, excuse me, it's really easy. It's a lot easier than it was at one point for someone to start off fairly small and like either YouTube or SoundCloud or, you know, whatever it is, and just blow up and actually have like a legitimate career in entertainment.
Mm-hmm. It's also easy to really feel like you know what you're doing if you don't when people pay attention to it. It's, you know, and that's not just a crap on everybody who's on YouTube and doing really well with bad stuff, but it happens a lot.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
True, yeah.
All right. So, like, after 15 years in production, I was wondering, why would someone do this for so many years? Like, you know, you've been doing this for a long time. Why?
It's fun. It means more to me than anything. Like I mean, other than family and love and all that bullshit. But it just is always like, since I was 8, I knew that I wanted to be in comedy. And so as long as I've been at least comedy adjacent the whole time and I'm putting something out there, that made me feel good. But since then, like, I've also met almost all of my heroes. I have interviewed a majority of them. I've had people who I really look up to tell me that I'm doing something positive with my own podcast. I mean, like, that's not the biggest thing I've done, but like, it's one of the easiest to look at and be like, oh yeah, I've definitely done something. So it's, I don't know, it's just, as long as you keep doing shit you love and can appreciate it for what it is, then it's worth it.
Nice. That's really...
So what's some suggestions that you would have for creators or actors and like that's like early process to be successful?
I can't tell anybody how to be successful, but I can tell you, you know, I can though. In your own eyes, like, that's the hard part. Like, it sounds like a cop out to be like, you have to be satisfied with your own stuff, but you do. I mean, why would you keep doing it if you weren't happy with what you do? Sure, if you look back on it 10 years later and it sucks, who cares? I mean, that happens to everybody. One of my other podcasts is all about looking back at my own stuff and like my own sketches when I was 12, and most of it's shit. And that's what's great about it. Like, you get to see where you've come, you know, how far you've come. And I don't know, like, it's, I would say just keep making stuff that makes you happy. Write for yourself if you're a writer, perform for yourself if you're a performer, and eventually people who are of the same mind will gravitate to you. You hope.
Wow.
That was really deep. I like that. I really like that.
Obviously, you know, we're two, you know, pretty young would-be creators of various things.
Rub it in. I get it. You're young.
Oh my God.
I'm kidding.
So, you know, it's really great to talk to you, you know, because obviously you have some perspectives on things that, you know, we haven't experienced yet, and we always want to learn from people who have actually been through things, as opposed to just, you know, basically guesstimating what we think we should do next, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So. I get that. But the best advice, though, is don't take anybody's advice 100%, though. I mean, at the end of the day, because my first year out here, I was fortunate enough to learn from like 50 different professionals through my college, and everybody had different advice, which gives you a couple things. Everybody's a little full of shit. Everybody's got good ideas, but there's no one pattern for anybody. It does not work the same for everybody. That's why if somebody says, do this, it'll work this way, not true. Not true at all. Just pick and choose, you know, and you have to go off your gut, and that's fortunate and unfortunate at the same time.
So, what kind of issues do you like kind of relate to the most, or like try to deal with in your work?
In terms of like what I want to reflect on camera, or what do you mean?
Yeah, I guess
like more like dealing with like any issues that you have, like trying to get your word out there or anything, or like did you have any problems with it?
It's hard to find an audience, especially if, like me, early on, I didn't do my own podcast, which I'll just mini plug. It's called the Comedy on Vinyl podcast, and I've been doing it for 6 years, and we could have probably a much bigger audience if I had done it every week in the beginning. I just didn't get it. I didn't understand that part of it. Like, just finding and keeping an audience is very difficult, especially if you're a loudmouth like myself.
we feel you there, man. We really.
But
do.
I try and be a loudmouth for social change, and like it's funny because I've got a lot of people who follow my podcast, and they're like, "Oh, well, no, whatever's funny's funny." And I was like, "Well, no, a lot of the comedy we talk about on this show is a bunch of people being racist or sexist or this and that. That's not always funny. It's okay to admit that, and it's weird how people don't accept that."
Yeah, that's actually
That is a really good point, but it is 2017. And everybody says like they're kind of butthurt when you pull up any kind of topic that's sensitive.
Yeah, well, that happens, but that's also cool. Like, I'm fine with that. Let them be butthurt if they have a good argument, or like if it's a reason, if it's something that genuinely hurts them, then I want to know why, so that I can correct myself and be a better artist.
That is true.
Man, that's a really interesting concept about like the nature of comedy and how much it's developed.
I think that if you do comedy and you can't develop with the times, Paul F. Tompkins has said it better than I can right now. He can actually speak English. I'm not speaking right now properly. But point being, if you can't develop with the times, if you can't advance, like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, why are you bothering?
Thank you.
Man, that was great. Okay. So, well, what do you want to be known for, like, in your career,
That is, that's a thing I think I probably run through my head more than anything, because I know at this point what I am known for, and if that was stuck on my grave, would I be okay with it? Some of it, yeah. But if on my gravestone was, he tried his fucking damnedest, that would also be okay, because I have busted my ass. But if there's like a thing, I don't know. Comedy on vinyl is not a bad thing, because like I said, interviewed some of my biggest heroes. I've gotten people to say stuff on my podcast that they've never talked about before me. Hell, we made history with that show. We premiered a Bob Newhart track that nobody had heard in 50 years. Nobody had heard it. It did not exist outside of my podcast.
Whoa.
So yeah, we premiered that. I created the world's smallest comedy album. I co-created. I did not do all the work. But little bits and pieces like that. I know it's a weird thing to shoot for. Like, hey, I got a world record. But I don't know. It's fun.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I did
that's what
fun
matters.
shit. Exactly. And it's hard to accept that sometimes.
Yeah,
really
it
hard.
is. Yeah.
If you're not a fucking millionaire by now, it's like, well, what am I doing? Well, just sit back, like, look at all the shit you've got. Like, I've got a catalog of stuff I've made, like, and that should make me happy, and a lot of times it does.
People don't understand that sometimes.
No, they don't. I mean, if you're desperate for fame, and I mean this sincerely, step the fuck back. Don't. Because you're gonna
that was so awesome.
It's just don't. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I came out here wanting fame too, partially, but then once I took a step back, I was like, oh wait, but I got into this because I just like to do characters and write shit and make dumb jokes. And if that's what I'm doing, I should be happy with that. So you have to come to grips with what you really, 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 really like.
That's some really good advice.
I hope it helps somebody.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. So when will Looking Forward 2016 be released?
Okay, that was supposed to come out about a month or two ago. It has been, because of just some personal crap, and that's just it. Like, if you're a working filmmaker, personal crap's just going to get in the way. So I don't know. It might actually not be until next year. Right now, I'm still actually kind of working on getting my first documentary out on Blu-ray, because it's out on DVD and it's in streaming in some places. It's called Lords of Soaptown. It's a real documentary. It's just a comedy documentary. And so I've been concentrating on that, and hopefully it'll come out later this year, like towards the very end, but if not, it'll come out next year.
Nice.
All right. And do you have anything else that you have being released this year that you plan on doing on your other podcasts or anything?
Let me see. Well, I mean, I've got a few good episodes coming up with the Comedy on Vinyl podcast. I've got a podcast called Dan and Jay's Comedy Hour. That's the one where I talk about my sketches with my best friend, like stuff literally going back to when we were 12. I've got a podcast about news radio. I just started an independent sketch comedy record label called Celery Sound Records. Very tiny, but I'm talking with some people, and that's all I can say, because if nothing happens, I'm going to look like a real asshole. But I can tell you, if you go to Stolen stolenDress.com, which is my production company. You can find everything there, including Celery Sound. You can see the stuff that we're releasing. And I'm hoping actually to get my next comedy album out. Same situation, either at the end of this year or beginning of next.
Okay.
Wow, that's awesome.
And where can they? I know you already said that one of the things, but what's some of the other things that they can reach you on, like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram?
Oh yeah, those are all good things that I probably should have mentioned. Facebook, you can find me. There are a few other Jason Klamms. It's Klamm, but I'm usually the one with the really stupid picture. It's easy to tell which one's me. On Twitter, I'm J Klamm, JKLAMM. If you find Jason Klamm, that is my alter ego who's been running for president since 2004. And that's the guy. That's the guy who Looking Forward is based off of. Like the first movie came out in 2012, and at that point we'd been doing that for 8 years. Now we've been doing it for 13, and that's what the sequel's about, is the follow-up to his stupid campaign, because he's an idiot and it's fun.
That's so great.
And I will say this, like he personally said, I wrote a book in this character, and in that book he said a bunch of shit that Trump has since said. I just feel like I should point that out. I know it's not a political podcast, but I will just say a comedy character came true. That's all I'll say.
That's wild, man.
That's pretty crazy.
Whoa. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it's nuts.
We appreciate so much you coming on our podcast.
Thank you, dudes. This was a lot of fun. I just said dudes. Who the fuck am I? I don't say that. Seriously? Yeah, Jason, try. Yeah, don't sound like an old guy. You fucking idiot. What I meant to say is thank you, guys. This was a lot of fun, and I appreciate that you guys have a show where you talk about stuff you like, but you are also willing to learn about new shit, because that's the best. That's what Comedy on Vinyl is about, too. I love it.
Wow.
Thank you, man.